Listen up! You can get the new iPhone 16e with Apple Intelligence for just $49.99 when you switch to Boost Mobile. We pulled so many all-nighters to give you this deal, and hey, stop messing with the mic!
I'm just helping us catch people's attention. This is a great deal!
Exactly, so it doesn't need all that.
Fine.
Head to your nearest Boost Mobile store right now.
Visit your nearest Boost Mobile store for full offer details. Apple Intelligence requires iOS 18.1 or later. Restrictions apply.
Hello, everyone. I just want to tell you about a podcast I think you'll enjoy. If you're like me, I'm always on the podcast apps looking for something else scary to add to my feed. And this one is called The Most Terrifying Places in America by the Travel Channel. On the podcast, they visit some of the creepiest locations across the United States. They go to a hotel in New England where guests wake up and they're covered in scratches. My personal favourite is the one where there's a church in the middle of the woods and the security guards have to stay there for the night, and it's really, really creepy. There's so many different places on there. Get yourself a nice coffee or tea, pop it on and enjoy. Listen to The Most Terrifying Places in America wherever you get your podcast. Hello, I'm Sarah.
Morning, Toby.
And welcome to day 8 of 14 Days of Summer Fear. I've got 4 spooky stories to share today. I'll get straight into them. Are you ready for the first story?
Yes, I am.
The Creature. My daughter, who was 11 years old at the time, was visiting my parents for the weekend during the summer. They own 55 acres in the woods in northern Michigan. Most of the property near the home is cleared, roughly about 7 acres. The rest has sporadic trees here and there, until you get to the back 8 acres. Before it gets dark, they like to sit out on the screened-in porch and watch the deer come out to eat, which was done this night. The plan was to wait till the sun went down so she could practice riding her CT200 Coleman bike. It's a small bike that only went about 20 miles an hour, and it had a decent headlight on it, so it was good for the cleared trails on the property. While her and my dad were sitting on the porch just before sunset, my daughter was watching the open field for deer. But instead, she saw something that looked like a white dog moving very slowly. It was roughly 200 yards away from them. And she said, "Grandpa, what is that?" He looked and he looked, very confused. My dad is a man who has grown up in the woods. He knows every animal and everything possible about where they live. He told her it looked like it could have been a white coyote. It had a similar size, but it didn't look like any coyote he had seen. The body of the creature was very thin, almost bone skinny, and didn't have a tail. He went and quickly grabbed the binoculars from inside the house. He looked and he said, "It looks really deformed, like a deformed pit bull. It's facing away, so I can't really see its face." It left view and they continued sitting there waiting for dark. When the sun set, my dad made sure to tell her not to go fast, because riding at night was something new. He knew that she knew the lay of the land well, but was worried since it was her first time doing laps, night riding. When he was done with his safety brief, she took off. She had a weird feeling of being watched, but she pushed those thoughts to the side because she assumed it was nerves on top of it being dark in the woods. As she rounded the corner to the straightaway with her light shining down the path, the light from her bike reflected back 2 eyes. She slowed her bike down, thinking it was a coyote or a deer. As she came slowly closer, she realised it was white. She was frozen in panic when she realised that this was the creature she and my dad had seen in the field. Only this time, she was just feet away. The creature was facing her, and she was able to clearly see its head this time. It was crouching with its long, skinny arms hanging down against its side. It had the head of a human dying of malnutrition. It had a huge chest, and its ribcage was very prominent. What she thought was white fur was skin. It had white skin with grey undertones. It looked like death. Its eyes were half the size of its head and completely reflected the light from her bike. She was still riding towards it, unable to react due to being frozen in fear. The creature's mouth then became clear. It was really big and unnatural. As she got closer, she started to realise that this creature was very tall, like my dad, who is 6'3". She said the long, skinny arms that hung down to its sides had human-like hands. She started to feel sick and woozy. Then she snapped out of it, turned the bike around, and headed back to the house as fast as the bike went. That's spooky. You will notice in this episode that these 4 stories are very closely linked with crawler-type entities or rake-type entities. That poor girl, she must have rode off on her bike as fast as she could.
Yeah.
Seeing that in the woods, terrifying. But just right for a summer fair story. Are you ready for the second story?
Yes, I am.
2014. This happened in the UK 11 years ago. I was 14 and with my friend and her sister. A short walk from where they lived was a very long hill that had 2 graveyards either side of the road. It was a summer evening and we decided to walk up the hill. We'd done this a few times before. I'm unsure of what time it was, but I'd say around twilight. Just starting to get dark, but light enough to see without a torch. So we're chatting, walking, having a laugh, etc. We pass both graveyards, and now either side of the road has thick woodland. I saw it first and said, "Who's that?" I could see someone hunched over, digging at the floor. We all hung back a bit. Naturally, as we're 14-year-old girls, we were very cautious about strangers, especially somewhere quite remote and out of the way, especially as it's getting dark. The 3 of us slowly proceeded up the hill, getting closer. Suddenly, I realised whatever I was looking at was naked, hunched, and had abnormally long fingers. It turned to look at us and didn't look like it had eyes, just 2 hollow holes. I know what you're thinking. This sounds made up and very cliché. None of us spoke. We didn't even look at each other or make a noise. We just started running back down the hill. Once we got to the bottom, we were all asking each other, what the heck was that? And my friend's sister had fully wet herself. We spoke about this for weeks, and my friend stayed at my house for a sleepover. Coincidentally, we were watching spooky/creepy things on YouTube, and we saw the creepypasta about the rake. When the photo popped up on the screen, we both looked at each other in disbelief. I tried telling my mum, but she insisted I must have seen the rake online before and thought I saw it in real life, rather than the other way round. 11 years later, we all remember it and recall it in the same way. I visited the same hill hundreds of times since and seen nothing. Nobody ever believes me when I explain what I saw, probably because it's so cliché and I was 14. But I know what I saw. I decided today to have a look on Reddit and I found crawlers. Could that be what I saw? Anyone else from the UK seen something similar? Yeah, I mean, two girls walking on your own at night is pretty scary anyway, let alone seeing a creature with long claws and long fingers.
God, tell him, mate. You're not one of the, the Queen had really long fingers.
Who? What queen?
Back in the day, one of the queens.
Okay.
English queens.
Yeah.
It was like one of these like creepy things about her. She always like had like a thing for having really long fingers. And her gloves, all that, like her gloves in like the museums and that, they all got really long fingers.
Gonna have to look that up because I've seen something else about long fingers on like social media about the stars having these really long fingers. I don't know what it's about. I think it's about taking something to keep them young, but their fingers get really long. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's mad.
It is. Are you ready for the third story?
Yes, I am.
I'm so happy I found this subreddit. For years I've been telling this story without having a name for the creature I saw. Skinwalker, Wendigo and Alien have been thrown around a couple of times, but none of those really stuck. Now I finally have a name for what I saw. Trawler. It was June of 2008. A cluster of really bad storms hit our state, and a large portion of it lost power for a couple of days. I was 16 at the time and stayed a couple of nights at my friend's house, who also lost power. She lived in the boonies, middle of nowhere, on a horse farm, surrounded by crop fields, soybeans maybe, which was then surrounded by woods. The night in question, we were upstairs in her bedroom, laying on a bed, looking out her window, just talking and laughing the evening away. We were faced into her backyard. Around 9:30 p.m, we hear this sound out in the woods that was unlike anything we'd ever heard before. Now, I've lived in Michigan my whole life. I know what Michigan's summer sounds like. The sound we heard was so incredibly unnatural. It almost sounded metallic. It was this horrible shrieking noise that was so loud it sounded like it was right in front of us, but was at least a quarter mile away and didn't echo. Originally, we weren't psyched out about the sound. We actually started making jokes about it, completely unfazed. The night progressed on as normal. 11 p.m. rolls around. We are still gossiping and facing her backyard, looking out her window. It was dark now, with barely any visibility due to the clouds obscuring the moon. Suddenly her horses started going wild out in the pasture, braying and running towards her barn. We barely had time to process it, because simultaneously her husky started acting really uneasy, pacing back and forth while giving us a mixture of whine and a growl. And like clockwork, everything went silent. The horses stopped, her husky paused, There was a deafening silence in the moment. And then we heard it. First, it started off as a rustling sound, as if something was shifting through the crop field. Then we heard a bone-cracking sound, as if every joint in somebody's body cracked as they moved. I looked down into a yard, into the darkness, and I saw this tall shadow next to a telephone pole in the middle of the yard. Me, do you have a brush next to your telephone pole? Friend, no, why? Me, there, do you see that? And like a movie, the clouds roll away from the moon, which illuminates her yard, and there stands an 8-foot-tall humanoid figure, incredibly skinny with long arms dangling at its sides, staring up at us. It takes my brain a second to process what I'm seeing. When it finally clicks, I whisper, "What the heck?" And immediately this thing gets down on all fours and runs full speed ahead towards her house while making that awful shrieking sound once again. We scream in unison and instantly slam her window shut and run to her mum's bedroom to bang on her door while sobbing uncontrollably. It was such a visceral response to what we just saw. There was just something about it that was so absolutely disturbing. It shook us to our core. Her mum woke up and of course didn't leave us, poked fun at us even. I started to even question what we saw, but we were so frightened we didn't sleep for the rest of the night, steered clear of all the windows and hid in a closed-off computer room in the centre of her house. The next day, it was all we could talk about. The craziest part about it all, my friends suggested we camp outside that night to investigate. I tried to hide my fear and I played along. We set up a tent, decorated it with alien hunting signs. But deep in my soul, I was beyond terrified, unlike any other time in my life. With a stroke of luck, the power came back on. I used this as an excuse to stay inside that night. My friend, of course, protested and wanted to sleep in the tent, but I used wanting air conditioning as an incentive to stay inside. That evening, around the same time we heard the shrieking sound the night before, we heard it again. But this time it sounded almost angrier, more menacing, like it was waiting for us, watching us, calling out to us. For the past 15 or so years, I've wondered what I saw. It's haunted me ever since, forever burned into my core memories. Now I finally have a name for it. Crawler. I'm definitely with the author. I'd be wanting to use the air conditioning too if that was outside.
Yeah.
There's no way I'd be camping if I saw that.
Well, I'd want to use the air conditioning anyway, because we don't have it here.
No, we don't, and it's really hot.
Yeah.
It's really hot. We've got another heat wave incoming, so we're both sort of sat here, sweating.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the fourth and final story?
Yes, I am.
Odd occurrences during preliminary crawler investigation. My co-workers Zach, Alex and Zach's wife went to the area where I had my crawler sighting nearly 2 years ago. The plan was to fly a drone with a thermal camera over the area to see if the drone picked up any heat signatures. I was unable to fly the drone due to a geofencing issue that I have since figured out. While I was trying to troubleshoot the drone issues, we all heard loud footsteps in the tree line that borders the wooden fence of the entrance. The footsteps sounded close, but when Zach and Alex went to investigate with flashlights, the noise stopped, and they couldn't find whatever made the noise. We all heard a dog bark one time, but it sounded faint, perhaps just a random dog. Shortly after, Alex heard what sounded like a dog heavily panting directly behind him. Alex said the noise made the hair on his arm stand up, and he turned around quickly but didn't see anything. Minutes later, we all decided to enter the park and walk to the centre of the grass field just inside, which is surrounded by trees. As we crossed the entrance, we all distinctly heard what sounded like a dog make a loud whimpering sound. The noise sounded like it was right next to us, but when we shone our lights toward the sound, we didn't see anything. We continued walking to the centre of the field. I felt a strong sense that there was something watching us. Alex said he had a passing moment where his hair again stood up. Zach's wife said she felt there was something negative in the area, and Zach didn't notice anything. As I looked around the field with my headlamp, Zach and Alex asked me a few times to point the light at a historical house on the edge of the field. Later they said they saw a white mass that looked as if it was painted on the side of the building, but it would disappear when I shone my light in that direction. That was the extent of our experiences, and all this took place within the 45 minutes we were there. Everyone had an experience, and they agreed that we should continue investigating. We plan on doing a full-fledged investigation in late summer / early fall. Overall, what stuck out to me was when Alex heard the dog panting, and when we all heard the dog whimpering. All the sounds heard were dog-related and seemed to be non-threatening. I can't say for sure what the source of the noise was, but I know crawlers can mimic a human voice, so mimicking a dog wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. All of that in 45 minutes. I'd definitely be going back for a longer look. Imagine what you could get in an hour and a half.
Yeah, some events
Yeah,
going on there.
yeah. I wonder if they did go back. I'm going to have to keep an eye and see if anything else happened.
Yeah. Well, that's the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
We will indeed. We'll catch you again tomorrow. Take care, everyone.
Goodbye.
With McValue at McDonald's, you don't just get deals on the drinks. You get deals on McDonald's drinks. So when you're breaking a sweat, embrace the chill without breaking the bank. And when your crew is running on empty, keep your wallet full while refreshing the squad.
Grab a cold drink at a hot price, like a refreshing Coke Zero or sweet tea in any size for only $1.49. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.